YouTube, he was conspiracy minded. He was a conspiracy theorist already. Like these are very similar traits, highly similar traits in 99% of flat earthers. I mean,
so this means flat Earth has nothing to do with science. It would be hypocrisy to claim that, right?
yeah, yes, a huge percentage of them are previously conspiracy theorists about all types of stuff. And then the age of the internet and YouTube is creates echo chambers and you know, incredibly incorrect you know, videos that people want to put out for whatever reason that that get followers.
Yeah.
So all that science is something what flat earthers are adding afterwards as a pretext, and right, the real reasons are much deeper in prejudice or resentment against government and so on, and involvement in other conspiracies like 9/11 or something. And then afterward, all these sciences are attached as a defense mechanism. That is what I would regard flat Earth.
Yeah. Nothing becomes credible or believable after that, right? It's all just tied together.
Yeah, they're too far down the rabbit hole that there's no hope, you know.
Well, I mean, I don't think there's ever not hope, but it requires a great deal of effort. People who have this mindset, they require years of counseling to come out of it, to have, you know, clear thoughts.
Well, yeah, I mean, just like last night, Jeremy was, you know, understanding reference frames. He was like, well, what about this and this? And was actually right on it. And as soon as it was mentioned that, yeah, you're right, you're starting to get it, went all the way back to square one. So he could start over and act like he didn't know what the fuck he was saying and what other people
were. The reset.
It happens.
You have the wall to push through and challenge everything you know, and you don't go through that wall.
Jeremy, you don't know reference frames. That's the thing. You think you do, and they went for like an hour telling you about, you know, frames of reference and
it just has to be like, I mean, if someone's generally interested in learning and has the capability, it just has to be reinforced again and again. I mean, it's like anything that you learn in grade school. Like, you might not get it the first time. It might need to be repeated. You might have to go through it a couple of times before you have a solid understanding. And then once you have that foundation, you can build upon it.
Yeah, admitting that you don't know is the first step.
Right, the hand doesn't have a foundation, can't learn, and he's not on. There's no conversation to be had there. I mean, I think he may have a mood disorder. If his, you know, online personality is real and legit.
I don't know. I just think you can watch one side of the internet and see complete bias, and then, oh, that looks real, and that's why the moon landings aren't real. And then you go through the other side of it, the counter argument, and it's like, okay, well, those are all good points, and it's whether you acknowledge that those, you know, points that refuted the, you know, the bias claims in the beginning, you know, are actually plausible or not. It's whether you actually accept them, or do you just, you know, completely proven wrong, but you still cling on to them. And I think that's the wall you've got to push through, Jeremy. I mean, there is so much information about every claim you have to refute your position, and instead of giving an explanation to replace an explanation given by the globe, the flat earthers turn to something like, we don't know what it is, and how do we know what that is? And, you know, I mean, that's just a cop out. You can't replace an explanation with an unknowing stance.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
That is
ridiculous.
A point I regularly try to make is like, if you're going to say this doesn't add up, then my argument is, okay, what does add up? Show me the equivalent. Show me why, for example, if this globe isn't right, then show me the flat. Show me the math behind flat that makes it work.
This is what I very politely attempted to ask Right the Hand, like as polite as possible. My first question to him earlier, and it was an absolute deflection and ignoring the question.
Right.
Was
Yeah,
we happily, anyone that can critically think or use logic would happily welcome any scientific proof, any observations that result in scientific publications, anything that any quote flat Earth scientist wants to do and attempt to publish or get or prove. We happily welcome that.
Yeah, I won't even go that far. Just give me one thing, one piece of evidence that cannot be explained by the heliocentric model that is only indicative of a flat Earth. That can only be explained by the Earth being flat, and I'll have to accept it.
Every flat Earth argument ever is, well, this piece of the globe doesn't work because I don't understand it. And it's like, no, show me what does work flat-wise. Forget the globe. Yeah. Show me something that is only possible on a flat Earth.
Yep. And they can't. And Jeremy thinks that chemo, had one thing that was only indicative of that, but he's wrong. And he's like, oh, there you go. Well, no, actually.
I think a lot of that is that chemo spends too much time around Oakley and QE and crowd. I mean, if you listen to some of QE's bullshit, it's basically just this because logical fallacy, bit of wordplay, therefore circular reference, see, globe doesn't make sense. It's like, what? How the hell did you even get here?
You can define anything into reality if you want, and make it logical. Doesn't mean it's valid.
And what's funny is that before Right the Hand bullied and took Sin Cleans out of the conversation, I had a very similar question for him because he was going on a tangent saying, this is what logic means, this is what philosophy means, this is what science means, and I said, your definitions aren't standard. Where are you getting them from? And I asked him that same question, like, why do you want us to throw away a model that makes predictions and helps us, do things in reality and go with this flat Earth model that has no predictive use? It can't help us predict anything, the seasons or anything.
It's the same group of people that think 5G is some sort of deadly death ray and COVID-19 is fake.
Exactly.
Yep. Jeremy, that's your test. Since you still think the moon landings are fake, you still didn't watch Jim's video, or you came back and actually had questions about it. Think about this. Give us one piece, instead of tearing down or attempting to tear down the heliocentric model, actually give us one piece of evidence, only one, that is only indicative and can only be explained by the Earth being flat. If you do that, you got a bunch of us. Just one.
You're a sellout, Pure. One piece of evidence will change your mind.
We'll start there.
I will accept one piece of evidence.
Funnily enough, if you ask the question the other way around as well, is if you basically say to them, okay, show me something that's possible on a flat Earth that's not possible on a globe Earth. And then they'll basically turn around and say, well, this thing I think is not possible on a globe because, they'll say something like, oh, I can see too far. And then when you explain, actually, no, that's not the case. They're like, oh, okay, fine. I don't believe you.
No, they never say, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
That was concession. That doesn't happen.
Yeah. No, what I mean is that it's kind of like, if I said to you, right, this is not possible on a globe Earth, and then I make an outright statement and I say, show me this happening on your flat Earth, they'll just, completely change the subject. And then if I turn around and say, fine, if you show me evidence of that, I'll accept flat Earth. And it just never comes up. All they've got is, well, actually, let's change the subject to something I don't believe about your model. And it's like, okay, misrepresent my model again.
Yeah. That's all they can do. They can misrepresent it. They can lie about it. They can attempt, they don't want to provide something positive for their belief or their quote unquote, model. They want to attempt to tear down the heliocentric model to get you to concede that it's broken somehow.
Insanely made up terms and theoretical shit that would have to do really crazy shit to make their model.
You see, most of them the ones that worry me. Wait, stop it. The ones that worry me are people like Quantum Eraser, because I think he actually knows the truth of it. But what he's doing is a clever load of wordplay, so that the bottom 5% of the population, in terms of intelligence, are basically just caught in this like logical loop that they can't get out of, because they don't understand how to critically think, if that makes sense. And so this is what converts flat earthers, basically, is that he's coming up with like a kind of semi-plausible point, but obviously for people like you and me that understand kind of where he's going with it, we look at that and go, well, no, here's your flaw. But because of the way that he's doing it inside an echo chamber on a live stream with people like Oakley, who are just going to sit there and agree with him whatever he says. It makes him look plausible and that, you know, he's doing something. And if you shut him down, the argument's always going to be, wow, see, they're covering it up, they're censoring us. It's, you know, it's just stupid.
I disagree with that.
Yeah,
I would say many of these people are already hooked on other conspiracies, and neither science nor QE's strange ramblings are a reason for them believing in flat Earth.
They invoke a lot of philosophy, but they don't understand it. It's like, you know, they'll call something an ad hom when someone's just made an insult. You know, I can say, you know, curved, you're a fucking idiot. That's an insult. If I say curved, your argument is rubbish because you're a fucking idiot, that's an ad hom. And they don't understand the difference.
Soon as we do my straight line test, we'll have the evidence that
Jeremy, your straight line test is rubbish.
Jeremy, I have a question about your straight line test. I have a question about your straight line test.
Wait, what's the straight line test?
Yeah, can we let Jeremy finish? Sorry, Jeremy, go on.
But let's admit that song of Mr. Chastity about Soundly was funny.
You're already self-admitted that you're too fucking lazy to actually do something yourself. That I'm not ad hominem you. I'm actually repeating back what you've said. You'll never do it. You don't have the money and the capability to pay someone to do it. So to sit here and just, you know, oh, as soon as we do my test, we're gonna have it.
People have already done these tests. So I don't know what you're doing.
Soundly, I offered to take him to Lake Pontchartrain, where I was going to see if I could get a hold of you. I was going to put him up in the same hotel and see if I can get a hold of Jesse Kozlowski and actually let Jesse teach him some geodetic survey and how to actually measure that. All he had to do was get a plane ticket. I was going to set him up in the fucking hotel.
Guys, I always try to keep my when I'm on the VC, I always try to keep it under 20-30 seconds, just enough time to get my thought out, and you guys never even let me get it out, man, the whole thing.
Because you're making shit up. You're making shit up.
Let him get it up here. Come on.
Yeah, let him talk. Let's see what he has to say. I'd like to have a chance to comment.
As soon as someone, does that line test, then you'll have the evidence that can only happen on a flat Earth.
Yes, except so as a machinist, Jeremy, I was going through your test and trying to figure out how to cut a piece of steel that accurately. Over 100 foot, you would have less than 0.003 of a variation on your flat edge. My bits don't have that kind of tolerance. If I did it in 20-foot sections, my bit has more warping going on as it heats up than the tolerance has to be.
Okay, we have other ways of doing straight lines other than that precision machine piece of metal. So
Right.
Yeah, and you're going to use spray paint. So drop of spray paint, one individual dot of spray paint is bigger than your tolerance is.
And why won't you use a laser again?
Because he doesn't want to use optics. He doesn't want to use laser shit that you actually have to fucking, you know, that you could put up with $200, you know,
Well, why can't you use the laser to draw the line?
Shit like that. Are you asking me or Pure?
I'm asking Jeremy.
Oh, all right. We could use a laser if it was in a vacuum tube, like they did at LIGO.
No. You're not using a laser. You're using a laser to be like your guide to draw the line. And you draw the line in segments. And then you move the laser level down.
We could, well,
or you use two of them. You stagger them.
Yeah, that's an option. We got a bunch of options for drawing straight
over a
lines.
mile. You would have to set up several times.
Lasers also have.
The beam gets farther, it's going to diffract.
Yeah, and lasers also have an area range. Right.
Right. That's why you draw like a 10-foot segment with one laser, and you place the next laser down. You just keep doing that over and over again.
Yeah, that's one method. Yeah.
The tolerances are still too tight to get it right.
Yeah, at 100 feet, your tolerance is less than 3,000ths of an inch.
But he wants to do it over a mile.
Yeah, that's why you put a vacuum tube like LIGO, like he said. I mean, LIGO's already done this experiment. I mean, he's aware of LIGO. He knows it exists, so he knows that experiment's been done. So I'm not sure really what he's getting at.
He wants to dig a trench a mile fucking long so we can put some goddamn water in it. But so he can physically go out there and measure with a tape measure with a line that he don't even know if they're going to do concrete, plywood, shit board, nailed into the wall. So he can physically go out there and take a tape measure and measure 8 inches from the drop from tangent and go, yep, there we go. Have a nice day, and deny it. As if,
the thing is, that's
not right.
Has anyone from the community ever attempted to get hold of one of the engineers that built LIGO? I'd be really interested to see them in an interview on a live stream or something.
Thing is, we're going to draw multiple of the straight lines, not just one.
Oh, now we're drawing multiple lines? Come on.
Yeah.
We're going to use different methods.
But Jeremy, the thing is, you want to go out there and
so we're going to use a bunch of different ones. Make sure.
Hey, Jeremy,
all our lines.
How are you going to do that? You remember, you want to go out there with a tape measure and measure the 8-inch drop from tangent. If you have one above or below, then it's not 8 inches, is it? You forgot about that one, didn't you, Captain Obvious?
Question. Could you use a laser printer to print out a 1 mile long line on, a roll of paper and use that to put your line down somewhere?
I don't know. That's a good, like I said, not every aspect of it has been thought out about what the wall is going to be made out of, where it's going to happen, what the, every different method of drawing a straight line is going to be. So you can.
It's never going to happen, Jeremy.
All right.
It's a pipe dream.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Flush it.
No, it was an unreasonable. This was his answer to what would you accept that's reasonable, like going out with a geodetic surveyor and see if we can get a hold of Soundly and go out there and they can show you how to do some geodetic surveying. That was his rebuttal to that's what he thought something was fucking reasonable.
It's just so, Jeremy, you've got so many problems with the flat earth already. Why don't you address some of those before you move on?
That would be the one piece of evidence. If somebody
There's
did that.
so many things, Jeremy, that you need to provide an answer for. Why don't you start?
Okay, but if somebody did that, that would end it for me. I don't know about anybody else, but if it was done right and we had multiple different methods of straight lines, and you go down and measure.
And
Jeremy,
any of your multiple different methods of making a straight line have such a low tolerance for error that they would be almost impossible to get accurate enough and parallel enough to pull off what you're trying to do.
So now the argument is,
we got one, and it's 8 inches. Hold on, Jeremy. You can. So the thing is, Jeremy, if you draw one line and it's at, we got the 8 inches, it goes out there. Now you have one above that, one below that. You got one above those. You wanted to be able to go out there and measure the 8-inch drop from tangent. How the fuck are you going to do that with multiple lines at different elevations?
But the question is, Jeremy, what other topics were you hooked on before you the first
Jeremy answer before he gets barraged with another question?
You're not going to accept it, Jeremy. How are you going to measure an 8-inch drop when you have lines above, below, The 8-inch mark, Jeremy.
Well, obviously, the starting point of one line is going to be X number of inches, and then when we get down to the mile, that same line is going to be X number of inches minus 8. Right? If there's drop or not, or plus 8.
How are you going to measure that though? Are you just going to measure the distance above the ground?
That was just silly. Water.
But the water's curving.
Water in this trench.
We're going to see if the hello. Do you not understand we're trying to measure if water curves or not?
Yeah, but if you're measuring water curving, what I'm saying is, if you've got your mark, let's say you put your mark 1 foot above the water, and you do that all the way along a mile's worth.
He's not doing that, Wardy.
Okay, so how are you going to measure it?
Let me explain it. The first segment of this line will be level, right? After that, we're not worried about level. We're just worried about straight. We're not doing level anymore.
He's trying to create a tangent line.
Yeah, so we could do that with, I don't know, a drone flying in a straight line, not at a fixed altitude, but on a fixed zenith.
There we go. We got another method. We got a drone. We
No,
got
you don't.
Pivots.
No, you don't. You can't fucking do that.
The problem is that you won't trust the GPS locations that the drone is receiving because you don't trust GPS. So
I offered to do that flight for Mind of God 2 years ago, Jeremy. And I still have all the math required for the altitude changes that would be required to prove that it was a straight tangent line.
Does the drone keep its altitude by knowing how far it is above the ground, or does it use some kind of gyrus?
Multiple ways that it keeps its altitude above the ground. Like my personal drone, my personal hobby drone, has a ground sound to the ground. It has LEDs pointing at the ground. I have GPS and I have navigation in front of it.
If it used some
and barometric pressure, barometric pressure, distance traveled from starting point.
Yeah, what I'm saying though is that you don't want a drone that functions normally, because a normal functioning drone will maintain a fixed altitude, which obviously on a globe means follow the curve.
Yeah, that's fine. And
so just put a Sharpie on this drone, and it can draw a straight line on that bridge for you.
No, drones are out. Drones are out because it's following it's just going to follow the curve. If it's curving, it's going to curve, and then if it's not curving, it's not going to curve. That's not.
No, they're not out, Jeremy. I went through this with Mind of God. You can take GPS coordinates and you can plot a perfectly straight line and program that drone to fly that line.
It's not our
The problem came down to how accurately you were going to measure how high the drone was off the ground without using, because they didn't want to use any of its onboard telemetry to monitor anything. So how are you physically going to measure how far the drone's out and how straight it flew?
Yeah, that's fine. The drone's out. We're not using a drone for this. No, it's out.
Because you still come down to an insanely tight tolerance, even over a mile.
Yeah, I'm still curious how that would be accomplished. The coordinates and establishing a straight line using that method.
One, you'd have to do 2 flight paths is what we came to. You'd have to do a flight path using its altitude to maintain the same altitude and plot its GPS pickup points without any reference to a ground frame, which will show you exactly what it tracked. And 2, you would have to do it with the math to vary altitude to get a true tangent, and then plot those GPS points and see which one was straight.
Well, that's the part I'm talking about. How would you actually accomplish the straight line part?
Oh, you have to do math to do it and figure out what it should be, and then you can plot those GPS pickup points on a grid.
All right, but there you're using what should already prove to you that the Earth is a goddamn sphere to begin with. You have to accept those coordinates to accept that you're drawing a straight line with them, which is, of course, going to give you, that 8-inch variation over a mile.
Yep, it was a lot of math, but I still had the flight math saved. And you can plot the GPS coordinates independent of a ground reference frame, so you can figure out exactly what path the drone flew in 3D space.
Right, but it's still using the spherical model, coordinates.
Bender, you got some bad echo going, I think.
Yeah, Fucking neighbors, they opened the off-road park down the road from my property, so everybody's traveling through here at the moment.
It's funny because I ask this every time I debate a flat earther. I always ask the same question, and it boils down to what single piece of evidence that they would accept that is impossible on a globe and only possible on a flat Earth. And if they could actually even tell me that, if any of them could ever tell me that, I would make the effort to go and get that piece of evidence. But none of them can.
Yo, I just told you the piece of evidence. Go get it.
And I'm trying to figure. I just told you your air tolerance is more than the bit on my precision machining equipment.
The machines. The go ahead, Fer.
I think you misunderstood the question. What we've been asking for is the one piece of evidence that's only indicative of a flat Earth, that can only happen on a flat Earth. Doing a measurement, and a ridiculous measurement at that, something that's very unreasonable. And fuck the measurement, just the digging of your fucking trench alone, the rental of equipment and paying somebody to actually do this and engineer this motherfucker out for you so it's actually straight, cost a lot of fucking money you don't have.
Didn't Sly Sparkane do a thing where he had like water running through tubes next to a canal or something?
Did it work?
Didn't he have to call it off in the end for some reason?
Yeah, he kept having leaks everywhere that they couldn't track down all.
Yeah, but that would have been essentially what we're talking about here, over the distance. But that still, I don't think, would convince any flat earther, because the water level, so to speak, would always be level throughout. And obviously that
it wouldn't be a tangent.
What you would see if you took a picture down that line is the same thing we already see in all these other pictures, which is something dipping down over the horizon over distance. So I don't know what that would prove. So when people talk about like long straight lines, I'm like, okay, but as a flat earther, show me how to produce that long straight line in such a way that you would accept that as finite proof of either curvature or flat. Because there's no way that we can explain this discussion point or this experiment in such a way that any flat earther will ever accept it. Because if you used water level as a level, their argument's going to be when you've got your line following the curvature that the water's doing, they're going to say, see, water's always flat and level, and this line follows that. And then when it doesn't, they're going to say, well, look, your line's going up in the air, it's not flat, and the water clearly looks flat, so that's your problem.
No. That's why we're going to use a bunch of different methods to make sure that each method is good to be straight. Do you understand what I'm saying?
You can't even figure out one method to draw one line accurately enough that it's going to make a difference over 100 feet. How are you going to do it over a mile?
Exactly. Well, I think we already have two methods. We already have two methods. Okay?
Jeremy, again, I don't care about the method. You're not going to do this. You want other people to put their money up for you. So
I'm just saying that's what would prove it. That's the one thing. That's the one thing.
Financing your fucking evidence for you is what's going to get you to accept that the Earth is a fucking sphere.
That's the one piece of evidence that.
Who do you think you are, dude?
That's the one piece of evidence that couldn't happen on a spherical Earth.
Oh, I see. So because no one can produce it for you, therefore the Earth must not. Oh, come on, man. Here's a counter to that. Here's a counter to that, Jeremy.
They're asking,
because you can't as a flat earther explain why there's a spherical shadow, a circle silhouette casted on the moon during any lunar eclipse. Therefore, the Earth can't be flat. And until you give me an ability to explain just that observation that requires nothing at all but your eyes, the Earth is not flat.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Are you just going to leave that glaring hole in your theory? Because I've got more. I've got more for you.
I just can't believe you have the audacity to sit there and go, it costs too much, therefore, because you can't pay somebody to engineer this for you. You want us to do it for you, to convince you. I could give a fuck less whether you stay stupid the rest of your life, dude.
All right.
But
you guys asked what the one.
It's already been done.
But hold on. Yeah, I asked you, Jeremy, a long time ago, a reasonable piece of evidence that we could take you out and show you. I kind of hinted at, hey, let's, get a flight down to fucking Louisiana. Because there's people down that way that could actually do something that's actually reasonable. A couple $100 flight is something reasonable, not several $1,000s a day. And for me to fucking do this for you, it's going to cost you $100 an hour just for my service, let alone the fuel and the machine to dig your fucking trench, and then the compactor to line it with clay so it holds water. I know, Jeremy, me telling you where you're unreasonable, I know it's fucking too long for you, but get the fuck over it.
No, I was just saying sometimes I cut you off, so because I can't tell when you're done with your statement or not. But that would be the one piece of evidence that could only happen on a flat Earth. There it is.
But the thing is, LIGO already disproves it. So the repeat LIGO for a fucking mile on money that you don't have, but you want other people to do for you is unreasonable, Jeremy. I don't know how you don't understand that.
So the CERN Large Hadron Collider does it as well.
So, Jeremy, to try to get more practical, what's your objection to these facilities that have already been built?
I mean, let's see the straight line in the water under it, so we can see the water curving.
Oh my God, dude.
Is it there or no?
What about Bob Nodal and his
Why don't you just build?
Yes or no? Is the water there so we can see the water curving? That would be my objection.
Why don't you just build a structure, which it'll be a whole lot easier to build this. Build a structure that's curved at the exact same altitude above the surface, and then determine if that structure is straight. That'd be a much easier experiment.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Build a structure that's the exact same altitude above the surface. Like every single post is the same altitude above the surface, and then determine if that structure is straight or not. If it's not straight, then it's curving, right?
That sounds familiar, soundly.
It'd be an easier structure to build.
Good.
You want to put
put poles in the ground to a known altitude.
No, he's telling you like Lake Pontchartrain, the post that the bridge sits on, the foundation, are the exact same elevation above the water across it.
Okay.
And
what does that
shows
prove?
The curve.
That's much easier than sending a line that you could never pull taut enough. This forced line with some kind of fucking rope or cable pulled tightly through the water. Guess what? It sags under its own fucking weight.
If the water were flat, the bridge would be flat. It's that simple.
Yeah.
Can you get that, Jeremy? Okay. If the water were flat, then the bridge would be flat.
Yeah.
And now go ahead and start bringing up perspective and compression and refraction and diffraction and compaction, extraction.
You're talking about because we see it appear to be curving. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. I'm not even dignifying that with a fucking response.
Or what you could do, Jeremy, is since Soundly's here, I go, hey Soundly, if I get a fucking plane down there, can you actually show me this? And could you guys maybe get a hold of Jesse and give me a quick 1-day lesson on geodetic surveying where you actually measured the fucking bridge
optically?
No, he used
GPS.
No, he didn't. He used. Yeah. See, the thing is, you go optically. You don't know what he did to actually measure the fucking bridge and measure, the elevation above the water, but you just throw this random shit out. Like, that would be the good thing to do. That would be the reasonable and responsible thing to do if you actually want to know the truth.
Funny thing that I found about the whole Soundly Jesse thing was that the picture made the Earth look flatter than it was, because when you overlaid the GPS data, there was actually more curve there in the GPS data than there was in the picture, which I presume is down to refraction. But I thought that was fascinating. So actually, reality makes the Earth look more flat, but still, it looks curved.
Yeah, that's exactly true. If you look at Get 2019, that 10-hour live stream that I did, and you actually watch how much the bridge varies, like just due to atmosphere going up and down, the interesting thing to note is like the curve is still there. Like the atmosphere is making the end of the bridge like wave around, but the curve is like there the whole time.
So when we got stuff like Chemo Sun videos, Skunk Bay, the Black Swan, all this stuff, we know that what we see out there isn't always happening.
Well, Skunk Bay comes with no observer data.
No, it is happening.
The water isn't physically at Skunk Bay. The water isn't physically going over the.
There's no tide there.
There's no what?
There's no tide. I don't know. I'm asking.
I'm saying it makes it look like the buildings or whatever are underwater. That's what it appears to be.
Well, there's two things going on. To me, it appears the water level rises and lowers due to tides, and maybe something like that. And then you see the background beyond the water horizon rise and lower. You see it stretch and do all kinds of shit. Yeah, shit happens. Yeah. You see it happening because it's happening optically. The light is being refracted. Things are going on.
The thing is, Jeremy, is that you can go out there during ideal conditions when you expect to see the least amount of refraction, and you'll still see the, actually in those conditions, the Earth always looks like a globe. It never looks like a flat Earth in the ideal conditions. When you basically are removing the atmosphere as a variable, in those conditions, it looks like a globe every time.
Yeah. And when you go out there for like the mucky duck, they go out there where, the water temperature on average is 62 degrees in Southern California. Jeremy, I've told you this. And they went out there, and when the air temperature is drastically fucking different, it was like 21 degrees difference. Yes, you're going to have they didn't account for conditions. Soundly has. Jesse does when he does it.
I went out there year round for the course of like 3 years. Took pictures in all sorts of various conditions. Probably the best conditions I was ever in was during December 2018, I think. And it was just like the atmosphere was so clear that I could look clear across the lake and see like windows, individual windows in buildings 24 miles away. Roger MC. That's me. That's Soundly.
Yeah, who's this Lance guy? Never heard of him.
It's a crazy picture.
That's so cool. I once was having a debate with a flat earther about exactly this picture, I think it was, and they basically turned around and said, "No, that's fake. If I looked at that bridge, I would not see it curve like that." And I was like, "Yeah, but are you looking at it, or are you looking at it through a telescope like Soundly was?" They're like, "What do you mean?"
If you're actually there, that's the thing that's why I tell people to go there, because having that tactile sense of actually picking up the camera and zooming in, you're able to like correlate what you see with your eyes to what you see zoomed in with the camera, and then you realize, oh shit, I'm actually seeing it with my eyes. Like you can actually see where that curve of the bridge is with your eyes.
Yeah.
It's small, but it's there.
Another argument that I've had presented to me is, well, that's just one place on Earth where that occurs. You can't reproduce it anywhere else. And it's, what?
I've reproduced it in every bridge that's longer than, like if it's straight and long, any decent length, like 4 miles or more, you can see it. Like, no problem. I could reproduce it anywhere in the world where there was a bridge tracing out the surface of the Earth.
I'm still waiting for somebody to pick up Red's Rhetoric's offer to go and, I think he's offering like a couple of drones and $1,000 in cash if somebody can show him how a equatorial mount works.
Yeah, Sean Hufford and him are offering their drones, the EQ mount itself, and something else.
It was like $1,000 in cash. Yeah, I thought that was hilarious. Might ping him a tweet or something saying, yeah, up the bounty. Let's see how many flat earthers can actually do this.
Also, that IPS gave him an interview that time with Red's Rhetoric, and then he said, "We'll come out to a launch with me, and we'll film the rockets together. I'll give you a camera. I'll have a camera. We'll film it." And the guy's like, "Yeah, okay, I will do that," and never showed up. So it's there's never any conviction to actually breaking the paradigm.
They know the Earth is flat. They looked out their back window from inside the house.
Exactly.
Going back to what Jesse did, I think one of the most interesting things about what Jesse did is that I learned about Earth-centered, Earth-fixed coordinates at that time. And that's essentially what all GPS devices work on. There's this coordinate system called Earth-centered, Earth-fixed. And basically 0, 0, 0 is at the center of the Earth. And then it's a coordinate system out from there. So it's X, Y, and Z values. And
so if you get the raw data,
you just take those X, Y, and Z values and plot them back into a Cartesian coordinate system, and you see a curve. So that's the whole thing. You get the raw data where it's not like you're mapping out a curve. There's no optics involved. It's just, what's my current location? Okay, that's it. Record that spot. Go to the next spot. What's my current location? Record that spot. X, Y, and Z coordinates. And then after that, you plot it back into a graph. And there it is. There's the curve. Plain as day.
The problem that you get there is that flat earthers will never accept anything that comes from GPS because they don't accept. They just accept the fact that GPS is based on a globe model and it makes assumptions supposedly. But it's like they can't show where the assumptions are being made. They can't show the flaw in how GPS works. GPS clearly works because people are using it all over the planet every day. But
right.
They don't trust it, and it's like, okay, so the positions are wrong, but they're right. So which is it? And then when they get faced with that contradiction, they're just like, oh well, you're going to have to use something else. And it's like, where do you go with that?
Well, the thing that the way I try and explain this to people so that it makes sense, like from a flat earther's perspective, the transmitters are in satellites right now, right? Basically, they're just transmitting this GPS signal, and that's how we determine our positions. But that same concept was used before with land-based devices before GPS was a thing. You could do the same thing. You could basically, if you really wanted to get down to the bottom of this, you set up a transmitter on each side of the lake, and then you drive across the lake and you take your coordinate from given to you from each transmitter as you're going across the lake. And if the problem is something that's optical due to refraction or something like that, then those things aren't going to match up. Like, you won't be able to correlate those two. Like, the positions won't match from each device. It'll be different from each device. But if the positions are the same from each device, then you know that it's not due to some sort of refractive problem or whatever like that. That's the thing. Like, why don't they do that? This seems like it seems like such a massive priority in their life that, man, they're hiding all this information from us. It's so important. Everybody needs to know this. Well, then why don't you just do the work, put the work in, but they don't. They just talk about it. They talk about weird experiments like with sticks that go off into a tangent line into space. I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
So Stanley, what you're saying is you're showing the geometric curvature of the Earth. I've got your picture on screen now. I'm looking at your image on screen now. But you're saying that's the geometric... This is not a refracted curve. This is not an apparent curve. This is the actual physical curvature of the Earth, Stanley.
We've already shown you that, Kima.
Yeah, I know. I'm looking at it right now. I'm saying that the curvature that you're showing... I'm asking that
so that he
I'm just clarifying.
You went away,
Stanley, since
so
the
it can't be true. It's a tactic. It's nothing really to work.
You've been away since the Black Swan Soundly. So I'm not sure if you're aware. We've been trying to locate the physical geometric horizon. So I'm just asking, are you saying the image? Oh, you can't see what I'm seeing. Picture that I'm looking at on screen. One of yours, I think. But
he was asking you to assume that you're on a globe with no atmosphere and it's perfectly spherical.
Yeah, I'm just finding out from Stanley if that is the geometric physical curvature of the Earth.
Well, we already showed you it is.
Yeah, that's what I'm just asking. Yeah, I'm just clearing up because I haven't spoke to you since the Black Swan. You see, you ran away just before the Black Swan. So I'm just clarifying.
I keep hearing people talking about the Black Swan. Why don't you tell me what that is, Kima?
Well, that's what I'm trying to clarify now. I'm just asking, is the image, that image that I posted, that you've shown, is that the physical geometric curvature of the Earth?
How many times do you want me to say?
Because
we already showed you that a year ago. That's what Jesse's measurements show.
Fantastic.
That it is the physical curvature, yes.
Yeah. Because we've just been told now, we've been told lately that the horizon is not physical. The curvature is not of a physical nature. You could never see the physical curvature or measure it because the horizon is apparent, Stanley. So can you clear up any confusion? Did you actually measure the physical...
You're actually...
Can you just clear up for me? Did you actually measure the physical...
There's no such thing as that. Whatever you just said about the horizon, the geometric horizon, whatever that is you just said is just word soup. It doesn't mean anything.
The geometric horizon, the geometry, Stanley. You know what geometry? You know when Mick West puts in his calculator, geometry, the height of the observer to the horizon. You're going to figure out how much of the building should or shouldn't be missing. You know, like when you were showing those buildings missing from the bottom up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got to work out with geometry, right, to figure out how much should or shouldn't be seen.
Right. And it always seems to match for some reason to a globe.
But what don't you understand? What's the problem?
You're saying geometric horizon. Can you explain what geometric horizon is?
So when you showed your images of the buildings missing at the bottom, yeah, that was the horizon, the geometric horizon. So you were measuring from your observer to the horizon and then telling me how much of the building should or shouldn't be seen based on the curve calculator, which is 3959, right? The radius? No? That changed since the Black Swan?
Are you trying to calculate where the horizon should be distance-wise from the observer based on a globe with no atmosphere? Is that what you're trying to say?
No,
he's trying to hold you to that.
You know those images you used to show of buildings were missing in half? You say, look, where's the bottom of the building? Remember those days, yeah? So I want to know how
I can show you that picture right now.
Yeah, let's have a look. Get that picture up for us right now. You used to show images, put up the big screen here for us. You were like, look, the bottom of the building is missing. Where's the bottom half? And obviously you used geometry to work out how much should or shouldn't be seen, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Right.
Emo, I think the point that you need to take from this is if
I'm just catching you up, Stanley, because a lot of the ball earthers today are saying that the horizon is not physical, it's not geometric. You cannot calculate.
Both of those work together. Both of those things actually make sense. They're consistent with each other.
Okay, let's take a look.
The horizon is not physical in the sense that it's like it's a thing that just stuck there permanently.
Uh-huh.
The horizon It's basically where the Earth starts obstructing your vision, and it's based on you. It's based on where you're located.
Yeah. So the reason why you can tell me how much of that building is missing is based on what? What are you basing it on? How do you know how much of that building should or shouldn't be? What are you basing it on?
We went through all this
based
earlier.
on math.
There's a lot of variables.
Based on math, Sandy, yeah?
Based on math, and in ideal, I'm going to try and say this again. I want you to try and listen because apparently you're having a comprehension problem.
Okay.
In ideal conditions, meaning there's no atmosphere, right? That calculation works. When you introduce an atmosphere, then you have a variable that you have to account for. So what you want to do is try and eliminate that variable as much as possible. And the only way to eliminate that variable is to go during weather conditions where the atmosphere has the least amount of effect that it can possibly have on your observation. And that's what I did. So that's what my observations are. This one that I just posted up there at 47 past the hour, that picture is showing like over 200 feet of obstruction right there on a very, very clear night.
Okay, but what is obstructing?
Whenever we go in ideal conditions, when there's a least amount of influence by the atmosphere, it never looks flat.
Stanley, is that a physical obstruction, or is it just refracted light covering the bottom of those buildings?
Well, you can see the causeway in front of the buildings. The causeway is up 200 feet off the ground right there.
I know, but is it physical, or is it just light refracting?
Yeah, it's physical. It's the
obstruction,
actual water in front of the camera that's blocking your vision of the building.
Yeah, but is that the Earth because of the Earth's curvature? So the Earth is curving, the water curves. Is that the reason, or is it because just the atmosphere or water, waves, like you say?
Well,
is it
we can make a prediction on what we should see. Then we can go measure it with GPS, and then we can go take photographs. And in all the situations that I've seen where we tried to account for atmospheric conditions, we tried to eliminate the atmospheric conditions as much as possible. It looks like a globe. It matches exactly what we expect to see. So until you can find an observation that doesn't match what we expect to see in ideal conditions, then
we've got one.
Reason.
Yeah, it's the black swan. I mean, we'll have to do this later on because I'm in the middle of something. But yeah, we've got the black swan. I'll get into the details of that.
No, you didn't listen to what he said. He said in ideal conditions we haven't seen anything that's not flat. The black swan is not an ideal.
I want to know what those ideal conditions are, how we accounted for that, and where are those ideal conditions in the curve calculator. I'll be back soon.
Well, you have to know what causes refraction to figure out how to eliminate the atmosphere as much as possible. And refraction is changes in temperature gradients. So you want a temperature gradient that is, as little as possible. It'll never be zero, but you want it to be as little as possible. Which typically happens after there's been large, long cold fronts that have come through and they've cooled the water down. And then there will be a day when the water and the air are basically the same temperature, but there's not a huge temperature gradient. So at night when the atmosphere is pretty much consistent all the way up and the water is about the same temperature, that's pretty good conditions. That's usually when you get your best observation. For anybody that's been there, if you know what you're looking at in that picture at 47 past the hour, I mean that's the causeway, which is consistently about 40 feet above the water, and so that causeway is running next to the building that's in the background that's 24 miles away, and that building is
that the picture at
about
night?
400 feet.
You're talking about the picture at night that you posted, yeah?
Yeah. So the building on the right side where you see just the roof, that building's 250 feet. The building on the left side is about 403 feet, if I recall correctly. Mm-hmm. There's a building in the middle that's 190 feet that's completely hidden.
Okay.
It's like,
but we
it's
know
completely
soundly, again, because of the black swan, we know that if you were to wait there for a couple of hours a day, that building would appear, and that horizon that you're looking at would disappear, and the rest of those buildings would be seen because of the atmosphere. That's what we know now.
You'll never see the road level there.
Yeah, you will. It depends on the atmosphere.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't ever happen. In the worst conditions, the most favorable conditions for flat Earth, where there's like extreme amounts of looming, you still can't see the road there. Like it might give you an extra 100 feet from this location. That's about it.
Let me show you this image, Soundly. Again, you've been away for a while, obviously. You're not up to date, up to speed with the black swan. But take a look at this image here.
It's not the black swan; it's a monkey duck. Soundly, they think that
looking at this image here, Soundly. Now we know, based on what you've just said.
You're talking over someone.
If we were to wait a day or a couple of hours,
you're talking over Peter. Stop. He was in the middle of saying something.
I'm responding to Soundly. Why is Pure interrupting that?
You were quiet for several seconds.
No, I wasn't quiet. Pure just started talking. So Soundly, like I say, we've got the information to show that your image, your building there that you said was obstructed, would appear the next day. Simply because the atmosphere is called. It's actually called. There's actually a wording for it. It's called turbidity, suspended matter. Soundly. I mean, we've come a long way since you've been away, Soundly. We've been able to go out there and repeat these observations where things were obstructed one day, and then the next day they're not obstructed. So,
Chemo, those were not the images from dude's video that you.
I mean, he's addressing me. Let me say something.
Can't hear me. Jeremy says you can't hear me.
I've been out there, dude. I went out there for like 3 years, and there were some weeks or like there were some months like in December, January. Well, actually leading up to it, so I would say even in November, there were some months where I went out there literally 5 times a week. Like I just went out there, just recording, photographing, looking at all these different conditions. There was 2 different occasions where I live streamed and said, today, based on the weather conditions, I expect to see looming. I expect to see looming out in the lake. I'm going to go out to the lake. I'm going to record my observations, and I'll come back after this, and we'll discuss. So I went out there. I recorded. I saw looming. I came back. Yep, I saw looming. This is what it looks like. The next day, I said, based on these conditions, I expect to see sinking. I went out there. I recorded. I saw sinking. I came back. We discussed it. I saw sinking. In both of those conditions, less of the building was shown, and with the sinking, during looming, more of the building was shown. In none of those conditions did you ever see the entire building. And you won't, because that's exactly what we expect to see on the globe.
It's almost like you can make prediction.
What you expect to see on flat Earth is, for the most part, in ideal conditions, you'd be able to see the entire building. We never ever have that observation, ever. It never happens.
You really don't quite understand the argument here. Go ahead, Pure, right now. Make your point.
But no, I want you to address this because you posted 2 images that were not from dude's fucking Black Swan video. The image that I posted is your supposed Black Swan. So why are you going to sit here and fucking lie, dude? And misrepresent dude's video.
So in these conditions as well, what you can do to like kind of, I guess, mitigate the fact that the atmosphere plays a role is you can go up and down. So if you take a drone or if you walk up the side of a hill or something like that, you go up and down and see how the observation changes when you go up and down. Because on a flat Earth, you'd always be able to see whatever's out there, that rig or whatever at that distance. But yeah, I mean, on a globe, you'd expect that you'd eventually start seeing obstruction as you get lower and lower. So
yeah, I mean, look, soundly 1 foot, you're expected to see 1 mile, 2 mile, possibly 3 miles at 1 foot. It's unusual to see beyond 4, 5, 6, 7 miles at 1 foot elevation height. You see, so because of the Black Swan, because this because this observation was made, we now understand the atmosphere a lot differently. And if you were around, if you hung around just long enough to be a part of this black swan, you'd have seen that if you wait, if you're patient, the horizon, the atmosphere will cause change. Therefore, you cannot measure what's in front of your face or in front of your eyes here. So when you say to me, we will never see the bottom of those buildings, of course we will. Absolutely, of course we will. If we are 1 foot, we can see up to 10 miles and beyond, depending on the condition. So that argument, Sandy, of you can't see the bottom is an old argument now, simply because of this black swan.
It's not an old argument. It's what actually happens whenever you actually take the time to do long-term observations for years, like I did. It's really, really obvious for anybody that's actually done the work. I'm not arguing with you about it. I'm
not arguing either. That's why I'm not. It's nothing to get I understand you've been away. I understand you haven't really understood this black swan argument. I understand you haven't even looked at this black swan argument, which is probably the biggest issue for you. But about this, what we expect to see and what you should or shouldn't see goes all out the window with the black swan. Because at 1 foot elevation, you should not see 10 miles away soundly. You see? That's impossible on the globe of 3959.
Can't take you seriously, Chemo.
Well, I'm just letting Sally know that we have an observation of 1 foot. We should not be able to see 10 miles.
Guess what? Nobody can take you seriously.
Another day we see closer than 10 miles. So
dude wasn't 1 foot. Sorry.
Quite all right, Pure. We'll get over it.
Oh, you'll get over lying? Yeah, you'll lie every time you open your mouth.
So, I mean, Sandy, like I say, it's not like we're trying to be awkward with you or anything like this. Just the idea is that the black swan has changed everything about the way we see the horizon, the way we look at the atmosphere, and essentially the way that we look at the Earth in front of us.
Same old Chemo with that word salad.
I'll post this image
It's
again.
good to see some things haven't changed, right, Soundly?
Yeah.
Yep.
So unless you can explain, Soundly, this image.
We have explained it. It's called a refraction.
Okay, so what? Okay, if this is refracting, okay, let's go through it. What is refracting where and over what?
Why are you posting images that not from the Black Swan video?
Where's the refraction in this image then, Stan? Let's look at the picture to the left. Are we seeing
actual Swan images, Chemo?
Okay, Pure. So Pure, Sally, are we saying the image on the left is the physical horizon that we would make measurements?
I'm asking you a question, and I'm not going to allow you to misrepresent a different image than what you're talking about. I hate it.
And you shouldn't ask him to account for an image that he hasn't taken himself. He doesn't know any of the readings for. He doesn't know any of the measurements for. If you're claiming that this observation is impossible, then
this
impossible
observation,
according to what?
This observation isn't impossible on the globe, Chemo. The one you posted it at the hour or 59 after that hour.
I just want to talk
that's
about
it. That's not impossible. That's not impossible on the globe. I mean, all you'd have to do is either have extreme refraction differences or go up higher on the side of a hill, which is probably what happened in this case.
Sure.
Probably went up a little higher on the side of the hill.
Sure. So the image on the left, we've got the obstruction at the bottom of the piers. Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay.
Wait, before you do this, Chemo, what video is this from? Because that's not the Black Swan.
So you've got the image on the. You've got the image there on the left.
I've been saying, I've been calling him out on this, and he
won't answer it, dude.
You see, Chemo, you're coming at soundly from a way that is disingenuous. If you're calling this the Black Swan, can we please have the source for this video so that we can have an idea of what we're looking at?
He doesn't know. It's just some meme that somebody posted to him.
So we've got the image on the left here, Sam.
Okay, so Chemo, if you're going to talk Black Swan, can you post the Black Swan image and go from there, or give us the source for this image first?
Okay, so you can see the image on the left, Soundly.
Okay, so Chemo, if you're not going to from a way that's honest, why are you going to have the conversation?
Right.
So you can see the obstruction on the left, Soundly, right?
This is is what the rig looks like from the Black Swan video. Grade A structural steel from those cranes are crumbled in on each other.
I recognize that. Is that
Yeah, it's an old video from BMLS 69.
Like out in California somewhere, right?
Yeah, on a day that was really hot with 60-degree water.
Yeah, makes sense.
Oh yeah, people's got the actual video. It's got the actual screen grab from it. This is what Chemo's actually talking about, but he refuses to acknowledge, and he's using an observation that's not what he's talking about.
Yeah, clear stock images that we posted going, look, the cranes aren't fucking crumbled. That's what he's done. He's taken two stock photos from different elevations and calling them the Black Swan images when they're actually not.
Chemo was about to lie his ass off to you, Soundly.
No,
not about to. He was continuing to lie.
Yeah, not surprising.
Yeah.
Okay, can you see the image on the left, Soundly?
Somebody was bringing up Black Swan the other day. I thought they were talking about all swans are white. Logical argument.
Well, yeah, that's exactly what they're bringing up. They're just misusing it. They're trying to say that they're trying to use modus tollens as an argument for globe versus flat, without any sort of acknowledgement of atmospheric conditions or that the Earth isn't a perfect sphere. Their entire argument has to work on the idea that the Earth is a perfect sphere with no atmosphere, and there are no optical effects that could alter an observation. That's what the Black Swan is. It's a misused modus tollens.
They use refraction when it's convenient, and then they ignore it whenever it's convenient. Based on
the best part about that one is they say that we've never put it in there when the Mick-West calculator, the Walter Bislin calculator, they've always had the refracted horizon changing according to how you adjust refraction.
Yeah.
So it's the most useless argument they've ever come up with, but it's the one that's stuck around because flat earthers are fucking retarded.
Oh, I see. He got that image from his own video that he just posted. But he won't tell us what the original source is.
Who was the original source? I don't remember.
We don't know.
No, somebody said it just a second ago.
No, for the Black Swan, it was BMLS. The picture that Chemo posted up the way that he's trying to say is the Black Swan, we don't know where that came from.
I think that's also BMLS as well. On it.
Chifa, why'd you tell them? Why'd you got to tell them for? Let them stew in their ignorance.
It's
yeah.
It's
let
not
them,
the same observer height or conditions or anything
let them,
to do with the Black Swan.
If you give them enough rope, right? What happens when you give someone enough rope?
No, you misrepresented it.
Right.
You want to see rope?
Yeah, you give someone enough rope, and this was enough rope for both Pure and Brian at the same time, you see?
Hey, Chemo, and the one you were trying to show where they take it from the same observer height?
A lot of rope here for Brian. Carry on,
okay,
Brian.
where they take it from the same observer height?
Do anything,
that's why it's okay, baggage, yeah? When you were like, mute them, I was like, nah. Let them walk off the plank themselves.
The Black Swan, and you pulled images from something different.
Now Pure swimming in the ocean still thinks he has an opportunity to get back on ship. So anyway, you see that image on the left there, Sal?
Something or hang? I guess to hang myself. I didn't, Chemo, because it's not the supposed Black Swan video.
Okay, have you finished?
You're the one making the claim here, Chemo. You're claiming that this observation is impossible according to our model. The onus is on you to defend that claim, not to ask other people to explain anything.
Yeah, what we're going to do is explain... Yeah, I'm explaining it to you. I'm explaining that the horizon is impossible to be seen at 10 miles away at 1 foot. Now, if you're saying, yes, it can be, we're going to talk about it. We're going to go through it.
Well, you're saying it's impossible. According to what?
According to the model of 3959, this observation is impossible.
Yeah, but according to a model that has no accounting for refraction and assumes no atmosphere, which is not comparable to the conditions of the Black Swan image. It's a joke.
No. This includes refraction. You can't have an object refracted 10 miles.
Okay, so for everybody that's interested, I have the video. I'm going to link it of that other picture that he posted.
Yeah, it's from the same guy. It's not a big deal.
There it is.
It actually is a big deal because he's not at the same location. He wasn't taking the observation from the supposed...
I posted this link before. It's not hard to find. It's out there.
It's completely
the idea behind this, sadly, would be the horizon that's on the left. you're going to say that it's refraction. So I want to know what is refract. I'm not going to ask you the type of refraction. I want to know what is refracting where. So we can see the obstruction on the left. You see, let me post the image for you again. So
I'm able to scroll.
The actual black swan. Chemo's posting something from a different elevation.
So you can see the image on the left there, Soundly, right? So we see the obstruction. How did that horizon then move behind the platforms? And if you are saying refraction, can you explain to me what is refracting and refracting over what?
The light is refracted, obviously.
That's right, light refracts, but what on the right image, which one's refracting? The right image or the left image? Which one's a refraction?
It depends. I would say probably the right one because it looks like the seeing conditions are worse on that day.
So the horizon's behind the platform, and something is refracting in front of the horizon. Sounding.
Do you understand how refraction works? It changes
where
I don't
understand how
horizon
this
is
refraction.
expected to be.
No, I don't. I don't get how this refraction works because, as I understood it, it would refract over the curvature.
So refraction changes the effective radius of the Earth. Essentially, that's how it works. So the horizon would be expected to see further behind, like further away, in highly refractive conditions.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking you. What is it Is it just refracting over the flat water or over a curvature?
What are you talking about?
Is it refracting over flat water, or is the picture on the right refracting over the horizon? Is it refracting over?
You're putting words together in sentences, but they don't actually convey a concept.
Yeah, but you said refraction. Is it refracting over flat water, or is it refracting over curved water? Curvature.
Air refracts, period.
Yeah, is it refracting? Is it
air
refracting
refracts
in
light, period. It doesn't refract it
just in
over
midair.
something.
Just in midair. Just in midair, it's refracting.
Air refracts light.
Just in the middle of the air, yeah. Just in midair, it's just refracting over nothing. Just on itself.
Yes. Refraction works based on temperature gradients. It doesn't matter where it's at.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying.
The temperature gradient could be 10 miles in the air. Refraction will still occur.
Yeah, so for example, I've got the computer in front of my face. You're saying that computer could refract forward to me a little bit, yeah? Just in midair. It can just project from...
Again, you're taking words and you're stringing them together in sentences, but those sentences don't convey a concept.
So I'm asking
until you can learn how to communicate better, I'm not going to answer your question. I mean, because it doesn't make any sense.
The words you are saying are not coherent, Chemo.
Exactly.
But when we see an object, like a mountain, that we shouldn't see over the curvature, you say it's refracting over the horizon, yeah? If we say we see too much.
No, I don't say it's refracting over the horizon. I say that light refracts, which changes the effective radius of the Earth.
Yeah, light is refracting the object over the curvature.
It optically changes the effective radius of the Earth so that you would expect to see the horizon further back based on just purely geometric calculations.
We're trying to establish this kind of refraction soundly. When have we ever seen something just refract in mid-air in front of our faces?
Chemo, you realize that the moment something passes through your eye, that it's refracted immediately, right?
But can we measure that? That measurable?
Technically, yes.
Yes, it's measurable.
You have a demonstration of that? I can put it on the big screen.
Jessica Kozlowski does all over his channel. You can go check it out.
Also, if we didn't know how light refracted, when it enters the eye or goes through the lens of the eye as it goes to the retina, we would not be able to make glasses.
Right. Or telescopes, or anything that uses a lens, period. It's because we know how refraction works that we can make those types of tools.
Yeah, it's funny how Flat Earth never attacks the observations showing curvature over a gland. They always go with the refraction over water. You know, never something simple like Miles Davis, Trepane law. I mean, that's
right. Look,
definitive.
Sheeple, we have to get this point out across.
Oh shit, that's Jones Beach.
We have to get this point out while Stanley's here, because he's the guy who showed geometric curvature. So we're trying to figure out how this pier is being refracted in front of the horizon. How does that happen if it's in front of the horizon? I can see it clearly. It's 9 miles away. How is that refracting if it's already in its location, Stanley?
It's not. That's how we started this whole thing. The horizon doesn't have a fixed location.
No. The piers are in its location.
Yeah, but the horizon doesn't have a fixed location.
Right. So how are you measuring then what should or shouldn't be seen?
Well, I've shown you the formula like 15,000 times in the last 3 or 4 years.
But if the horizon keeps on moving soundly, how are you measuring with a radius of 3959? If that number keeps on changing, 3959, 3960,
right, so,
3961,
right.
3962.
Refraction.
So the physical
changes
changing.
the apparent radius of the Earth. I've stated that at least 3 or 4 times just in this conversation.
Yeah, but you just said refraction.
Yes, refraction changes the apparent radius of the Earth. That's what I've said now 5 times, I think. We'll go with 5 now so I can keep running total.
But if refraction changes the apparent size of the
upper
Earth...
limit of the amount of times you're willing to repeat yourself, Sam,
because if it changes the size of the Earth, how are you making a consistent measurement? If the Earth is getting bigger and smaller, bigger and smaller, bigger and...
That's why it's different. That's why you see more of the building on one day and less of the building on the next day, because the measurement isn't consistent. It's dependent upon refraction.
So that would make you a flat earther,
that is why you want to eliminate refraction and the effects of the atmosphere as much as possible, which is why you go in conditions when you expect there to be none, or to at least be as minimal as possible.
So we can agree the horizon is not physical. It moves, it changes. It doesn't stay in one location. So therefore, in my mind, we can't make calculations for objects disappearing behind it soundly, because tomorrow
you can make calculations about what the what you should expect to see in ideal conditions, and then you can look statistically at all your observations over long periods of time and see if they approach the ideal conditions.
For example, if I'm 6 foot, you're 6 foot, and my distance is 3 miles. So you disappear at 4 miles. I can't see you over the curvature because you've disappeared over the horizon. All I have to do is wait a day or even half a day, and you will be seen with the atmosphere changing, as you just said. The horizon keeps on moving.
Actually, our observations at Little Tenses Bayou showed it happening in a couple hours. It just depends on the atmosphere.
Yeah. That's what flat earthers would say. Yeah, we would say it's not physical, it's just the apparent illusion of things being hidden bottom first. So your images have shown a building.
See, that's not an illusion. See, being hidden bottom first it's not an illusion. That's still happening.
Not physically, it's not. Just apparently.
Yeah, it is physically being obstructed by a physical object, yes.
What object is it being physically obstructed by?
The thing that's in the foreground, either water or land or something in the foreground, that where your tangent line of your eye of sight hits the apparent horizon. That's what's being obstructed. It's the ground. It's the Earth itself that's obstructing the thing behind it.
Okay, so in the image on the left, where does that physical solid Earth go? How come it's disappeared?
Again, you're putting words together that are incoherent.
Okay, let's take a look at the image again. I've got it on the big screen, so I'm always looking at it. Yeah, so you might not. So this image, the image on the left, we see obstruction. That's your physical solid Earth, just like the Earth or the solid water. And on the right, same height, same elevation, same location, different day. Now we see the bottom of the piers.
Right.
So where is the physical horizon that was covering it yesterday? The physical horizon that was covering it yesterday.
The horizon is behind it now. You see
so how did the physical get up? How did that physical horizon get up and walk behind the physical platform?
Again, the horizon is based on your height, right? The geometric expectations plus the atmospheric expectations. The horizon is not fixed.
But you just said it was physical. So if it's not fixed,
yes, that water in the foreground right there is a physical thing, and it's blocking.
But that's not fixed though, is it? That will not stay that way forever at this height.
Again, your words are not coherent.
At this height, at this elevation, that blockage will not be there forever.
Right, because refraction changes the apparent radius of the Earth.
Yeah, so if I were to see more of those platforms the next day, the horizon should stay where it is, but the platform should reveal itself more, no? Is that not what refraction is?
The horizon wouldn't stay where it is. What are you talking about? That doesn't make sense.
But if I see more of the...
He's under the impression that the horizon cannot refract in any way, shape, or form. It has to stay in one location, and optics can't change.
Well, that's silly.
What's silly? What's silly sound?
There's a differentiation between what you see based on atmospheric conditions and the physical shape of the object that you're looking over. So what Soundly is saying, physically, the Earth isn't changing, but what you see is dependent on the atmospheric conditions, and therefore what you observe as being the horizon will vary, even though physically the horizon fact is always in one place, geometrically speaking.
Sadly, the bottom of those platforms are obstructed. What way is it possible for me to see the bottom of those platforms at that height without moving? What possible way can I see the bottom of those platforms staying at that location? So if a ship went behind that image on the left, would I be able to see that ship ever again?
If it went behind the image?
Yeah, if a ship went behind the image on the left, would I be able to bring it back and see it?
I don't know what you mean by behind. You mean below the horizon?
Yeah, below that horizon. If a ship went below that horizon...
Yeah, of course you would. Of course you would, yeah.
You would be able to bring it back.
No, you wouldn't be able to zoom in and bring it back, but on certain days, like the day, if you want to compare like these 2 days, if the ship went behind the horizon on the left on that day, and then on the right day, on the right, the same ship was there in the same location, you would see the top of it.
Yeah, but on the left, it's completely gone.
Right, and then on the right, you'd see the top of it.
No, but on the left, what do I have to do to see that ship again? Do I have to change elevation or anything?
Drive the ship towards you. Yeah, no. Change in elevation. Yeah.
Yeah, change in elevation to see the bottom, right?
Right.
But
change in elevation so you can see the top of the ship.
No, we want to see the bottom, like we can see the bottom of those platforms.
Oh, well, you'd have to go way high then, in that case.
So why didn't we have to go way higher in this image then? On the one on the left? On the right?
Because there's refraction on that day.
So basically, if you had a line of sight weapon, you would have missed the platform one day because it's really not in that position. Is what you're telling me?
Do what?
If you had a line of sight weapon.
It seems like you have a problem with scale. I mean, if you shot a weapon that distance, you have more things to worry about than a little bit of refraction.
That's more than a little bit. That's miles.
No, just stay with the line of sight. You don't have to fire anything. You just need a line of sight to the bottom of those platforms. And Sandy says the only way to see the bottom...
Guys, line of sight, that means that the weapon has to know how to fly straight through that. You
don't need a weapon.
I mean, come on.
You don't need a weapon, just need a line of sight. So we want to see the bottom of those piers, Sandy. And the only way we can see them is to obviously raise an elevation, right?
Raise an elevation or change the refractive index, right?
How do you change the refractive index?
I don't. Nature does.
So I just have to wait, be patient, basically, yeah?
But yeah, sounds right.
Yeah, so that's what we're saying. So that obstruction on the left, I just have to be patient to see the bottom of those platforms. I don't have to go higher.
It might be true in this specific, finely tuned case.
Now you're getting it, Sandy. Finally.
True. It's not true. It's not true for
finally,
more
you get the argument now, right?
On unambiguous cases.
Yeah, that happens everywhere.
In unambiguous cases, like the cases where you're looking at a building 24 miles across Lake Pontchartrain, you'll never see the bottom. No matter how long you wait.
Well, it depends
because there aren't any refractive index values that we know of that will give you that sight.
that area in particular wouldn't allow for that kind of refraction to see to the bottom because you've got 3 airports, you've got a swamp, you've got a motorway around there.
Nothing to do with airports and swamp.
Yeah, you got 3 airports around there. So go there. You should have went there when the lockdown was.
It has nothing to do with airports.
If you'd have went there when the lockdown was,
it's not a swamp.
You would have seen a completely flat.
That's not a swamp. The lake is not a swamp.
If you'd have went there, Sally, when it was lockdown, you'd have seen a completely flat bridge.
It's a 24-mile wide lake. It's not a swamp. It's a lake.
The idea is you've got 3 airports. Got a motorway.
You just listen to what Stanley said.
How many airports there are is completely irrelevant.
Yeah, that affects the atmosphere. Of course it does.
No,
it's like he doesn't realize that St. Louis airport, the Armstrong Airport is only one airport now.
So you've got a lot of reasons for why the atmosphere will be distorted in that area soundly. Many, many reasons. Now, obviously, this happens everywhere in the world because you even said
many reasons.
You even said yourself earlier on.
You can't just throw that comment out there and
you even said yourself earlier on that the bridge was going up and down.
An airplane is not flying in front of my observation. It's not affecting the observation.
You said earlier on, soundly, the bridge was going up and down, but it was still curved. It was going up and down, but it was still curved. So that if you removed all of those variables like the airport, the swamp, the motorway, you would see that bridge completely flat.
The airport is miles and miles away from the bridge, dude. It's not even close. It has no effect on the bridge whatsoever.
Yeah, thousands of airplanes fly past that bridge.
The airport and the airplanes have nothing to do with the observation.
Have you never seen an airplane take off with all the distortion around it?
Yeah, well, that's local to the airplane right next to it. And then it goes away very quickly. It dissipates in the giant atmosphere that it's flying in. It dissipates really quickly and has nothing to do with it.
Where does it dissipate? Where does it go?
It's based on heat turbulence. So whenever the atmosphere is consistent and doesn't have that heat turbulence, then you have very good, clean observations. That's what I have.
Dissipates to where? To England? Does it disperse and come over here? Of course not. It will stay in that area and linger until... Yeah.
Okay. Hey, take an ice cube, stick it in boiling water, and see how long it lingers.
Look, Soundly, you've given us the answers. The horizon's not physical. You've said we need to go higher to see the bottom of those platforms. We don't. You've said everything that we need to.
These are all things that we predict with our model, and that you can't predict with your model.
This was never predicted, ever.
Yeah, it is.
All that was predicted was that the picture on
Mick West, Walter Bislin, Jessica Kozlowski, Wolfie, 6020. These are just a handful of guys that have talked about refraction over and over again.
Your prediction was, in order to see more of those platforms on the left, you need to go higher. Yes. Or
increase the refractive index.
Or you need the platforms to refract over the physical horizon. That's the only two ways.
They're not refracting over.
Yeah, that's what happens. If you see more of something, they're just looming. Remember superlumin? They superloomed over the curvature, over the horizon. Remember that?
You saying over the curvature and over the horizon just makes you look silly.
Yeah, that's what you tell us. It's precisely, that's what we were told. It looms over. Just like when you have the apparent sun and the physical sun. You're looking at the apparent sun, and the real sun has already set in your model. Right?
Until you're capable of understanding what we mean and criticizing what we mean, and not your worst possible interpretation of what you think we mean, then you're not going to make any progress. If you actually want to make progress, Chemo, you need to understand what we mean, and then criticize what we mean, not your worst possible interpretation of what we say.
We've made leaps and bounds since you've been away soundly. Absolute leaps and bounds. None of the ball earthers are able to...
I've been gone for over a year, and I came back, and it's the same exact story.
No, we didn't have the Black Swan when you were about then, soundly. Very different.
Nothing. It's just yet another one of those observations that are always. Oh, this is the end all observation. Like what was that island off of the coast of England? What was that island?
Isle of Man.
Isle of Man. Yeah, I remember
This
that.
Isle of Man all
The
over.
lighthouse.
But with the Isle of Man, we didn't get.
You'll get a bunch of people arguing about it, and then you'll have ballers that spend like a month, 2 months debunking it, and then everybody will forget about it quickly once it's been completely thrashed.
Thing is, with the Isle of Man,
move on, and then you guys will move on to another observation that still matches the globe. Every single one of them end up matching the globe.
Yeah, the Isle of Man had the curve of Earth, that the geometry of Earth hiding the castle or whatever it was, right? But now we know we don't see that.
Thing was,
That's
with
not
Isle
what
of
we're
Man, it didn't change the radius. You've now just changed the radius with the Black Swan. You said, oh, wow, the number's just an average. It can change. It can be bigger. It can be smaller. It's not concrete. We didn't have that before. If you don't have the size of the Earth soundly, you don't know the distance of the sun, you don't know how far away the moon is, the planets, the stars.
You're taking my words and you're finding the worst possible misinterpretation of it, and that's what you're trying to criticize.
Is the Earth 3959 fixed or not?
Yeah, the radius is fixed for a given location. Yes,
fixed for a given location. Right. So that means if the Earth is 3959, every horizon must be no further
3959
than 1.225 times the square root of the observer height in feet. Right.
What's that?
There's an easy way to destroy the Black Swan argument in one literal question.
Yeah.
Okay, you've got your two photos, okay? You've got one which is clear as day, and you've got one which is bent to all fuck.
Yeah.
The one that's clear as day is basically a straight line observation, and the one that's bent to fuck, you're looking round a corner due to refraction. Now, in a straight line, you're seeing something in the way. And when you're looking round the corner, you're not seeing something in the way. Now, why do you think that is?
I don't know. Why is that?
Well, when you get to the bottom of answering that question, you'll understand why we say the Earth is round.
Well, I mean, if you can understand that you're supposed to have a globe of 3959, then you'll understand that the horizon could never change. It has to be fixed. Do you understand
You've
that?
just completely missed what I was saying.
Because you're missing the argument. It's nothing to do with the cranes. The cranes are irrelevant in this. We're looking at the horizon, the physical geometric horizon that should not move. It should be fixed. We should be able to. We should be able to figure out how much of a building we should or shouldn't be able to see. That shouldn't be difficult. Like Sandy's showing me. We're looking at Sandy's image now of the buildings at night.
Me and Soundly have both told you today, physically speaking,
and Soundly told me how much should be missing and how much should be seen. He did that based on geometry. Okay?
No.
All of that goes out the window if those buildings can be seen the next day. If we see the next day...
intentionally misunderstanding.
If we see the bottom of those buildings the next day, we know it's not of a physical nature. That was all.
Emo, you have never once been told that the physical shape of the Earth changes. All you've been told is that the appearance of it changes based on refraction.
Exactly.
The physical geometry does not change for the, 5th time today.
Okay, so it doesn't change?
Give him 30 seconds, he'll say it changes. Don't worry.
No, I didn't say it changes. You said it changes. You said it's just our best guess.
To be super clear about what I said the apparent radius of the Earth changes based on refraction. It doesn't mean the actual radius of the Earth, and that's a convenience thing. Like that's the way the calculation can make sense in a simplified way. But you know what that means. You know that I don't mean that the Earth is literally changing shape on a day-to-day basis. You know that. So
no, you
again,
don't mean that.
I'll go back to what I said earlier. Until you're able to criticize what we mean and not what your interpretation of what we say in the worst possible light means, then you're not having an honest conversation. You're just being a liar.
No, I know you don't mean that, but seeing this image for the first time, just as a lot of ball earthers have seen that image
means that you are a liar.
For the first time, it causes a lot of confusion because, like you said, you're supposed to go higher to see the bottom. We've never seen.
I don't know who would actually. I'm going to take your word for it that it actually caused confusion with some people, but that is irrelevant. It wouldn't have caused confusion with me. I've seen this over and over and over again for literally years. Like, this isn't any confusing thing. This is stuff we've talked about over and over again.
Where have you seen this before? Where have you seen the horizon in front and behind an object?
At Lake Pontchartrain, obviously.
You've seen the horizon in front and behind an object.
Of course.
Soundly, you've seen the horizon in front and behind the object.
Just like your observation that you're showing there.
Go on then, give us a look.
I've seen the horizon. I've seen the horizon in front of parts of the bridge. The next day. Actually, not even the next day. Sometimes it's just a couple of hours. It depends on the weather conditions. But you will see the horizon back off, and the things that were just a moment ago behind it are now in front of it.
Well, go on and give us a look at that.
You can actually see that. You can actually see that if you look at the 10-hour live stream I did. If anybody actually wants to do this work, it'll probably do something interesting. But if you take the 10-hour live stream that I did, you take that footage and you actually speed it up over time, you can see it. It's just like waving, you know, like you can see the horizon.
I don't want to mix
in
your
and
words
out,
up, sadly. I don't want to say I didn't say this. Are you saying you've seen before the horizon in front of an object and behind an object, like a building or something?
The causeway did.
I don't want you to say that I've mixed your words.
The causeway goes from me, my observation point, across the horizon, right? So
Stanley, I don't want to mix up your words. Can you just be clear? Are you saying, because you did say that you've seen...
I'm not mixing up my words and being very clear.
No, I don't want to mix up your words. I don't want to mix up your words.
Comprehend what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't want to mix them up. Are you saying... I want to ask my questions. In this image, we've got the horizon in front and behind. Are you saying you've seen this before? You've had the horizon in front of an object and behind the object?
And I've tried to answer you 3 times and you keep interrupting me. So the causeway goes from the observer across the lake, right? So that means the horizon is somewhere in the middle of that causeway. And then as the atmospheric conditions change, the horizon changes. It blocks more of the causeway, it blocks less of the causeway. So yes, that's exactly what you're seeing in a way more robust way. Because you have a thing that's crossing all the locations.
That's not what I'm saying, Stanley. I'm not saying that. You're saying block sum shows some of the building, more of the building, less of the building. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the horizon being behind the building, so you now see the building, and in front of the building where you can't see.
That's exactly what I'm saying. I am telling you that's what happens on the causeway. There's little huts along the causeway. There's structures along the causeway that those things get blocked and then they become unblocked. That happens over and over again. In my videos, in the Get 2019 videos, the 10-hour live stream, you can see that happening for yourself.
Go on, gives a picture or a link of that. But the horizon's in front and behind.
All you got to do is go to my channel and type Get 2019. And then you can watch all the videos you want.
Yeah, but I want that specific one though. That's the Black Swan.
It's a 10-hour live stream. That's the whole point.
I just need the before and after, be front and then behind, like this. What we have here.
Oh, go get it then.
Well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I believe you.
I'm not your slave, bro.
I believe you. I believe you. If you say you've got it, you've got it. Okay, and that's all we need. That yes. Now, Sandy's.
I'm not just saying I got it. I'm telling you which videos to go look at. Get 2019 videos. Go look at that.
That's fantastic. So Sandy's now saying, just like we're saying, he's seeing the horizon in front of an object, and the horizon now walks behind the object.
No one here disagrees with the fact that that refraction exists, Chemo. I'm not sure what point you're trying to make.
I'm just clearing up that you're saying that the horizon is in front of the object, and then now it's behind the object.
The horizon appears to be in front. The apparent horizon appears to be in front and appears to be behind.
So which one's the real horizon then?
They both are.
They are both the real horizon. Okay, good.
When he says the real horizon, he's trying to get you to. He means he's interpreting you to say that the geometry of Earth is in the way in both cases. Therefore, the Earth changes. Therefore, flat Earth.
Yeah, no.
That's what he's trying. That's what he's trying to take out.
Hey,
the point I will make again for like the 5th time is that you're taking what we say and then you're misinterpreting it in the worst possible way you can to try and play a game. Whereas if you just criticize what we mean, then we could have an honest conversation. As long as you do the first thing, it's
I've only asked you to clear up what you've said. I didn't criticize you. I'm just clearing up what you're saying. But I'm just clearing that you're saying that you've also seen this image that we've seen before, where the horizon's in front and behind. That's all. I haven't changed what you've said. I'm just clearing up what you're saying, right?
What's the point? I mean, what's the point that everybody agrees that happens?
No other ball earther has said this before apart from you.
That's bullcrap.
I know I have.
They've been saying it for years. What are you talking about?
That the horizon can be in front of the object. So that, like the lighthouse, for example, in Isle of Man, could that horizon that was obstructing the lighthouse be in front and behind of that
Kimo,
lighthouse?
you see the picture in the chat of the black swan, and then the other image of the same observation. The horizon's in front, and it's behind.
Yeah.
So what's the problem?
Well, how is that possible if it's physical?
Well, it's happening, and it's apparent.
Yeah, but we've never seen this. We've never seen this before, have we?
I just showed it to you, and you could see it many times if you wanted to look for it.
No, we've got the black. You're showing the black swan. Let me show what Dark Star's showing. He's just showing
exactly.
the black
swan. How is that ever possible on a flat Earth?
How is that possible? That's suspended atmosphere.
How is there obstruction in front of an object on a flat Earth?
That's called suspended matter. Turbidity.
Remember that thing where we talked about how you put words together but they don't mean anything? Yeah, you just did that.
Yeah. Well, again, you are way behind on a lot of this.
Is the ocean the suspended matter?
Do these guys know what suspended matter is? They all know about suspended matter and turbidity. What it is, it's just particulates in the atmosphere causing a blockage of the piers there, the platforms there.
Those particulates look a lot like the ocean.
So I think I've got it, guys. Exactly what we're talking about here from Soundly's videos. This is quick and not probably the best example, but I've literally just gone to his.
It doesn't surprise me. I have so much stuff on there that anybody should be able to find it.
So that's picture 1, and that's picture 2. And if you compare those two pictures, you'll see that you can see stuff in one and you can't see it in the other one. Because it disappeared behind the horizon.
Is that turbidity as well, Kimo? You muppet.
Hold on, let me get the picture up there.
You can just scrub through that video. If somebody actually put it in a really quick time lapse, like to sped it up, it'd be pretty impressive. It's pretty crazy the way it works. Actually, I think I did that. I might have that on my channel. Now that I think about it.
So you got the clear water detail, and then you don't have it. That's awesome. Still that curve there, that pesky curve.
That bottom picture has a lot of suspended matter in it.
Like I said, I went on a day.
What's happening?
I went on a day where I expected to see a ton of blooming, and I did see a ton of blooming. And the bridge was, you could see a lot more of the bridge actually, and it was still curved.
Yeah.
So you're saying in these two images here, Wardy, Andy, you've got the horizon on the move. What we're saying, yeah.
Yeah, if you look at the back section of the
your
bridge,
reason for the horizon on the move is what?
If you look at the back section of the bridge where it curves, it disappears closer to us in the second image.
Yeah. Because Danny did say that it was going up and down, right?
Yeah. And you can see that box to the left of the bridge at the back there. And it's more visible and is actually sat on the sea level in the top one, but on the bottom one, it's basically disappeared due to atmospheric conditions.
But we're not really seeing the horizon in front and behind something, are we? Stanley? What object is it in front and behind of the horizon, for example? So we know let's say we know that the platforms are 9 miles away. Where in your image can you say, yeah, that's 2 miles away, and we have the horizon in front and behind it? Because we actually have the GPS, we actually have the distance, the measurements, the facts, the figures, data. So where is this horizon in front?
Kimo, I'm sorry, I stepped away for a second. What'd you say?
All we see here is the horizon, the picture going up and down, up and down.
What are you talking about? Talking about what Wardy posted?
Yeah, and those two images there. We've got the picture going up and down, up and down. We're not seeing the horizon move in front and behind.
Well, the second one's a little hard to see, but yeah, the horizon does move in front of those pylons of the little huts, the Those are utility. What do they call them? Utility vaults on the sides there.
Well, we've got them there for anyone to see, but I can't see where the horizon's in front and behind the object.
Well, there are examples on my channel, so you can go check it out if you want.
Well, it's been interesting. You're more aware of the Black Swan now. Obviously.
So actually, this video, it's got a little bit of it. It's actually worth looking at. Here, let me post this for you. Wrong. Copy paste.
That's a link, yeah.
Hold on. Let me get that for you real quick. Wrong
Hey,
copy.
Spurs, what happened to Rizla? Real quick.
Hey?
Spurs, did you just remove Rizla again?
Yeah, look in the chat there.
There we go.
I don't know if you support that kind of thing, Twitch. I don't know what
That
your
video
thoughts,
has like
I don't know
a
what your thoughts on things
sped
like
up,
that, Twitch. Yeah?
some sped up video in it.
Okay, let's take a look at Simon's video.
That was like yesterday, the day before.
You can look at the end of this video and see kind of how the atmosphere was doing. It's around, I want to say around 2 minutes. It speeds up right at the end too. There we go.
Okay.
Yeah, right at 2 minutes and 10 seconds. It looks like.
I'll go from 2 minutes.
I actually have a better image of this too, like a GIF somewhere.
Okay, so I've got your image on the big screen. We're all going to see that.
Let's look at the end of the bridge during that period of time right there.
Okay, yeah, so we've got it rising up and down, and that's what we expect to see. But we don't see the horizon in front and behind, Okay?
Well, it is, but to a lesser degree. It's harder to see, I guess. The horizon's moving a little bit.
There are some crystal clear images. Unfortunately, like I say, this is for me a lot of turbidity, a lot of suspended matter. But we'll have to discuss this further next time. We've been going for quite a while now.
Turbidity, suspended matter. Sounds like a sci-fi movie.
It does. It's a new term, new vernacular. But yeah, it's been a pleasure, Soundly. Catch you.
Peace.